Welcome to Titan HST's Business Continuity Today, hosted by Todd DeVoe, where planning meets reality.
Good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you are at in this fine land. And I'm Todd DeVoe, and I am the host of Business Continuity Today. And, well, today we are going to take a look at what skills that you need to be successful in the position of business continuity. You know, some executives look at business continuity, emergency management in some cases, as a cost center. This is because on a daily basis, business continuity professionals are not bringing in dollars and cents. They're not bringing in new clients necessarily. They're not doing that side of it. So it is a little bit of a cost center. But, however, when things go sideways, man, they are pretty happy that we've been leaning forward, looking at what's going on, and looking at doing some predictions and stuff like this, right? You know, with the world being unstable as it is right now, I think business continuity professionals are at its most critical, especially for those organizations that are, global. And who's not global these days? So, a few things that we're going to do. We're going to look over 10 different skills that I think that you need to bring to the table as business continuity professionals. So real quickly, we'll go over them and then we'll go a little deeper into each one of them. So communication, well, that's part of it, right? It's a big one. Communicating the plans and standards. Collaboration, right? Looking at all different organizations that are doing things. We're working with your local partners and stakeholders. Business impact and risk analysis. Critical right there. Project management. Yes, everybody who's doing emergency management and business continuity needs to take some project management courses. Measuring risk kind of goes in with that. Auditing across the range of all the different areas that your organization touches and what their impacts are. Financial analysis, right? Understand what's going on the finances as well, right? And then emergency management, obviously, consensus building for the programs and the tools that you're creating. Adaptability to advance business continuity goals. And we'll add one more at the end, and we'll let you know what it is when we get there. Let's talk about communication. So speaking and writing skills are essential for business continuity managers and business continuity professionals. And you're preparing various documents, you're writing policies, different plans, procedures, standards, and reports. And then you have to communicate what those mean to those that are working within the organization. And, you know, depending on how large your organization is, let's pick like an Amazon or a Google, for instance, right? You're going to have much larger audience that's there with different jobs and skill sets. Amazon, for instance, right? You're talking to not the tech side of the business, but you're also talking to your warehouse managers, you're talking to drivers and things like this that you need to communicate with. So you have to be able to have your message to go across disciplines, right? And also cross levels of education. So that's really important for you to really understand that when you're writing these plans. I get in trouble a lot. I say in trouble when I let my friends and family read some of my documents that I'm writing, and they, tell me all the time, it's like, oh yeah, you got to get out of that lingo, because we tend to be a very linguistic group of people with acronyms and things like this. So plain language, write it so that, as I say, write it so your spouse or somebody who's not in the business can understand what you're talking about. And that is critical. Even me, as I'm writing this, I wrote BCDR, right? So unless you know what you're doing in that area, what does that mean? So again, use plain language when you're trying to write these out. Collaboration is a critical skill set. And I like collaboration. I think it's really important to grab everybody's, your core work, their opinion, what they're doing, and get that buy-in specifically on what you're doing with business continuity, especially getting somebody from the C-suite to really be your champion up there, and understanding why you're doing what you're doing. And there's all sorts of collaboration tools. Matter of fact, I was talking to somebody yesterday, and they got hit with in a city. They got hit with a cyber attack, and so they had to quickly pivot from their normal communication tools. And so they created a Slack channel specifically for all their communication. And during COVID, they ended up using Slack for the entire time as a way to operate in their emergency operations center, right? Tools like HST, where we have collaboration spaces inside of the app itself, right? And so you can two-way communication with that. You can do video. You can do all sorts of stuff with the collaboration aspect of it. And having your team on that platform that's that's agnostic to the platform. So in other words, Apple or Android, you can use it with, again, Apple computers or PCs, right? Something like that you can use across platforms is critical. Business analysis, right? Understanding and help managers how the company operates and how different elements interact, right? And breaking down those silos, right, is the ability to execute the business that you are doing, right? And so I'm going to be a little agnostic when I speak about this in these terms, because I'm not exactly sure where you are, what business that you do, but everybody has some little silo that has been built up amongst the time. And realistically, using business analysis to understand what each department does, right, what their roles and responsibilities are, and then like how business continuity impacts them is critical. That goes back into project management. Again, taking a look at how these things impact the businesses and how do you implement them, and then how do you know how well it's going, with using like things like KPIs and other measurement tools, which we talked about before, as if it's not worth doing, or if it's not worth measuring, it's not worth doing type of thing. Same idea. So you can find some really great project management courses online. Some of them, EDU, edX, is a great place where you can find some project management courses for free. Use LinkedIn tools or LinkedIn Learn, to use that. You can get project management courses if you've never done project management, and understand it and usually using this. And as you're building your plans, right, as you're building your business continuity plans, you might not know what, say, like the operations division does, but they do. And so you need to get them on board to help write the plan, but you also need to get finance on board. You need to get, your other divisions that are all writing parts of the plan. And you, as a project manager, manages each area there as of writing it, to bring it together and then meld it into one plan. And that goes into risk-related preparation reporting. And so, take that, and you're taking a look at what risks are happening out there and coming back your way, and how do you report that up the chain, right? And that's another thing too with business continuity and emergency management. You have to fight to be at the highest level you could possibly get to. And so realistically, you should have direct access to your C-suite. And so when you do a risk analysis and you're able to report that up, they should have that information as soon as you do it. And it shouldn't have to go through a bunch of layers, right, that get stifled. So having that and understanding what that means. And then when talk about auditing, I don't think of it as in the sense of like where you're going in and you're going to take a deep look into what's going wrong in an organization. What you need to do is audit each section and understand what they do, right? And that goes back up into project management, right? And having that portion of it done first, and having a great understanding, having a conversation with each division and what they do and how you can help them. And I always approach it in the idea of how can you help that division be better and be ready for the time when crisis does occur. And we all know, we've seen it. COVID has taught us. If anybody says that it can't happen here, just point to COVID, right? And say, yeah, and it has happened here. How do we keep our businesses running when we're during crisis, right? Again, financial analysis, understanding finances. Understanding you have to go through and be an analyst when it comes to finances, right? You have to know everything in and out, but you have to understand how to read the report, what it is, and how it impacts what you're doing. And emergency management, right? You have to have the emergency management skills, and there's a lot of cross contamination, if you will, between emergency management and business continuity. In some cases, they're in the same division. Some cases, they're not. Some cases, the emergency manager is the business continuity manager. In some cases, the business continuity manager is the emergency manager, right? So that's what I'm saying. There's a lot of that going on. But those skills are very useful, and build that skills. Also, going back to collaboration, interact with your local stakeholders, your local emergency managers, know who they are, have regular interaction with them, whether it's through meetings or through emails or through just contact. So when things do go sideways, you have a report mechanism to talk to and see what's happening outside of just your bubble of your organization. And then advocating, right? My friend talks about the idea that everyone's a salesman. Daniel Pink wrote a book on that aspect of it, but not everybody's a natural salesperson, right? The ability to convince senior management and others in the organization that business continuity is worth the time and effort to keep the business running during crisis is critical. And so you have to constantly advocate for yourself. Trust me, right? This is one of those skills that I had to learn to do, right? Advocate for yourself and what you bring to the table as an emergency manager, as a business continuity manager, and how what you do is very important for the organization. 10, persistence. Be persistent, right? And keep that going and be, I don't want to say like be the bug in the ear, that little fly that flies around, but definitely, make yourself known, make sure that you're useful to the organization. You can create an internal newsletter, regular training type things, be out there, be visible. And if you have a team, make sure that you're leading that team forward and making them be persistent as well. And always give more than ask for. I'm going to give you one more. So just the top 10, we'll give you 11. Empathy. Disasters have effect and emergencies have effect on people in different ways. And be empathetic. And there's a saying that, one emergency is seen differently by everybody who's involved. And I'll tell you again, personal story, that until I had my first child, running on baby calls when I was working as a medic, it was stressful, and we wanted to make sure that it was a little bit more than a normal call, if you will, right? But after I had a kid, that idea of putting myself in the steps in the shoes of the parent and what that means, it really brought it home to me of what it really felt like. So you have to have empathy for people because they're visualizing this crisis differently compared to where they are in their life, right? And compared to what their past experiences have been. So again, not everybody reacts the same way, and not everybody's going to react the same way the second time around. So be empathetic of how people are during crisis, and work with them, and be there for them. So I want to thank everybody for spending time with me today. And I know that you have multiple things you could do instead of listening here, but I do appreciate you and I appreciate everything that you're doing. I know you have many options for your information. So if you can, please give us 5 stars and give us a rating on your favorite podcast player. Follow us on Facebook, YouTube, and your other areas that you can find information as well. And I got to tell you something else. We have some great webinars coming up for the rest of this year. November, we have, we're looking at incident management teams, right? And how you can implement them in your organization. And yes, I think that every organization should have an incident management team. We're going to be looking at winter weather safety issues in December. And no matter where you are in this nation, the winter weather is a little bit different, even here in sunny Southern California. So join us on those 2 for the rest of the year, and look towards 2023 and see what we have coming for you for our webinar series here with Titan HST. Until next time, stay safe, stay hydrated.